Welcome, everyone, to my podcast called Me Thoughts. This is the first episode, and today we're going to be taking the movie Star Wars Revenge of the Sith and taking life lessons out of it that you can use day to day. Lessons you can learn just by watching with your eyes. So, to start things off, we're going to be going through Anakin's character arc, his temptations, how that affects him, and then we will relate it to what we can do in our day-to-day life. So, Anakin, this entire movie, is very tempted by power, by fear, and by deceit. So, he has this relationship with his wife, and they can't tell anyone about it. It's kind of like the whole forbidden love, Romeo and Juliet style type of situation, right? Not really something that's too appealing, not an appealing situation to be in. And he starts off the film, and he's at war with his master and best friend, who basically had been teaching him everything since he was about nine years old, since he was just a little boy. So this guy, his name's Obi-Wan, is like a brother to him. They're really close, and they're fighting together. And, Anakin, he feels a sense of pride. He feels a sense of pride in the fact that, I have this amazing warrior by my side. He's taught me everything, grew up without a dad. So this is like his father figure that he has. And, they're really close, but Anakin's not very good at expressing his thoughts, his fears, and, sharing himself, whether it be with his boy, which is Obi-Wan, whether it be with his wife, which is Padme. He's not into sharing himself. And this leads to him to create this massive void or massive aura of deceit around him and everyone in his daily life. For example, he never tells Obi-Wan that him and Padme are together because they're trying to hide it. But Obi-Wan knew, but pretended that he didn't know most of the time. So, it was this weird dynamic where he was trying to hide it, but wasn't doing a good job, but he was just trying to act like he hid it. So there's just deceit going on everywhere in this movie. And, Anakin, when he gets back from this first fight, he sees Padme, they hug each other, hey, how are you, and she hits him with the news that he's pregnant. And this is when he starts to feel just a taste of happiness, something that he's been chasing. He's been enslaved since he was a child. So he starts to feel this taste of a new life, a better life for himself that he will enjoy more. And, a few more action scenes go by, and then he starts to have these dreams that his wife, Padme, will die in childbirth. Now, Anakin's mom had died only a few years ago. So, and he tried to save her, and he couldn't. So, now he is afraid of the same thing happening with Padme because he had dreams about them both. So, this gets him to start to be scared about everything, and gets him to start thinking, what do I do? I'm going to lose her. I don't know what's going to happen to the child, but I'm not going to have this one person that I feel like I can trust more than anyone, or almost trust more than anyone. We'll get to that. But basically who he considered to be his lifeline. he wasn't going to have her anymore if this dream came true. So, in essence, he was scared of losing his wife. And this is what basically spirals the whole movie and spirals his character into becoming this guy that now we perceive as evil, known as Darth Vader. So, he's hiding his concerns about losing her and being afraid to lose her. Like, he's hiding his concerns from Padme about losing Padme. So he's afraid of these things, and he's not telling her. And because he doesn't discuss that, yes, hey, I'm afraid of this, I'm having these dreams, I'm afraid of losing you, I'm afraid that this will happen, and the same things happen with my mom, because he doesn't express these inner workings of his mind. It is expressed through his actions instead. So instead of him just being honest with the people around him, asking for help, saying how he was truly feeling, he was trying to hide it from everyone and deceive everyone about it. And he never even told her. So because of this, throughout the movie, his actions are constantly just out of fear of losing her, instead of finding help around him. Even when he goes to Master Yoda, which is this super wise individual, for help, he doesn't tell him the whole problem. He says that he's having dreams about losing someone close to him. Doesn't say he's afraid, doesn't say any of that, doesn't say anything that would really progress others being able to help him through easing his mind or whatever other way. He's just being deceitful about it. And basically the response that he gets from Yoda is that he needs to let go of his attachments and don't let anything tie him. So basically what he says to him is, let go of everything that you fear to lose. And he doesn't like this answer. You can see it in his face. He doesn't like this answer. And it's the right answer. It really is, because he's so attached to this person and this idea that instead of loving her, he's just attached. And if he was just open with everybody the whole time, yeah, maybe he would have gotten expelled from the Jedi, but everything in terms of his people around him would have turned out okay. And how we can take this and extract it from the movie and we can apply it to life is essentially, if you don't voice what you're afraid of to the people around you, and you don't, say your concerns and say, I'm afraid of this or I'm afraid of that, then that's going to show in your actions instead. And if that shows in your actions, then the very thing you're afraid of is bound to happen regardless. So you have to circulate these emotions about you and say, hey, yeah, I'm afraid of this. I don't want this to happen, or whatever it is. And the more that you do that, just inherently, the less you'll be holding in. So, for example, if you have that fearful energy inside you and you don't get it out through words, it has to come out somehow. So it'll come out through actions. And then what you're afraid of is going to happen anyway. But if it comes out through words, then your actions will no longer be based on inherently causing what you're afraid of. You know? And that's not saying that to say, hey, I'm afraid of something, so I'm not going to do it. For example, if you're scared to get into the cage and have a MMA fight, then say, I'm scared to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, say it. Actually say it. And that'll get you much further than just than just holding it in and then showing like, yeah, okay, I'm scared to lose. Okay. Well, if you don't say that you're scared to lose, guess what? You will keep losing and losing and losing and losing until you eventually say that you're scared to lose to someone or to yourself. You know, first thing is to admit it. So Anakin never said that he was what he was afraid of, never said he was afraid to lose his wife, never said that he was afraid to lose his wife, never said that he was afraid to lose the Jedi, never said any of these things because he was straight up just afraid to share himself. And he was also afraid that he was going to get kicked out by the Jedi because they always believed that the bad guys, the Sith, relied on fear. The bad guys relied on, you know, sadness and all these other aspects. But to an extent, they're lying to themselves in the fact that those emotions just don't exist, right? You have to acknowledge them and understand what's there. You know, if you're a human being and there's two sides to you, right? There's the positive side, you know, all your positive emotions. Then there's the negative side, all your negative emotions. Then, and you only focus on the positive, then you're only going to know half of yourself. And the best way to move just through life in general is to know yourself as a whole, and then you can act accordingly. But if you only know half of yourself, right? Let's say you only know the positive emotions. When you're in a situation where all that negativity is coming in, right? For example, let's just say, you know, you never admit that you're scared of something, and then you're put into a situation where that fear is coming out of you, right? Let's say you're scared of getting eaten, you're scared of getting attacked by a bear, and then you're on a hike and a bear attacks you. Well, that fear, your mind won't know how to handle the fear. Your mind will be like, what is this? I've shut this out for so long, you know, now it's getting to me, and it'll just be overwhelming. It won't be something that you're used to, and it won't be something that you're ready for and accustomed to handle. And that's simply just not going to end well for you, no matter what the circumstance that you're in. It's simply just not going to help, you know? So that's the lesson that you can take from Anakin's arc, is that, you know, he did everything in his power to prevent what he was afraid of from happening. And essentially, he made it all happen anyway, you know? And he never really faced what he was afraid of. He never really said, I'm afraid of this. He just did everything else. And, you know, fear is an acronym. Fear has two meanings. It either means forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And he chose the first one. He chose to forget everything and run. In life, you know, choosing face everything and rise is the best thing that you can do when it comes to fear. So that's the lesson for that. I would also, I would also like to take not just lessons from Anakin, the main character, but lessons that you can take from the conflict of the Jedi and the Sith, which is essentially a conflict of pure good versus pure evil. And in this conflict, both sides are using deceit to their advantage, right? So, for example, the Jedi believe super strictly that, you know, feeling afraid at all will lead you to a darker path. Feeling jealous, feeling guilty, ashamed, any of these things will lead you to a darker path. And to deny that those emotions exist inherently will bring you towards a darker path. Because, just like here in real life, they're all people. People feel certain emotions. That's just a fact. That's just the way that human beings are wired. We're wired to feel emotions because we have souls. And your soul can be directly impacted by holding in these emotions and pretending they don't exist, or getting them out. Either way, if you just hold them in, and as I said previously, it'll come out in your actions. If you don't hold them in, your life's going to be good. So, the Jedi, they're trying to pretend that these things don't exist. Meanwhile, in the movie, they straight up ask Anakin to spy on the Chancellor. And the Chancellor is like pretty much Anakin's father figure and Anakin's guider, right? The one that's been there with him since the beginning. And and they ask him to spy on him. They ask Anakin to deceive someone close to him because they believe that the Chancellor is deceiving everyone else. But again, they're afraid. They're afraid to say that. They're saying they're sensing everything, but they're afraid that the Chancellor is the guy that they've been looking for. And he does end up being the one that they're searching for. But that's besides the point, They use deceit to find deceit. And the Chancellor is using Anakin to deceive the Jedi without Anakin's knowledge. The Council is using Anakin to deceive the Chancellor with Anakin's knowledge. And this whole thing, Anakin's entire life is surrounded by deceit. Like, you can see it. It came in earlier. Earlier in the movie, we were talking about how he's deceiving everyone around him into believing that he's not in this relationship, that he's not married to Padme, that she's not pregnant. He's deceiving everyone. And then everyone's using him for deceit. So his entire reality is shaped by deceit and fear. All of it. And also jealousy. Because he's jealous of the masters that are more powerful than him, such as Obi-Wan, because he believes that he should have more power at the time that this takes place. So all of these things combined, it drives him mad. It drives him mad. Everyone, his entire life, has used him. He's been a slave when he was a kid, and then a slave to the Jedi, and then later on a slave to his next master. So, been a slave pretty much his entire life. And the Jedi see this, right? This is where it comes full circle. I'm not just trying to go on a tangent, But the Jedi see this, and whether they realize it or not, they're like, we can use this to our advantage. And then they start going down this darker path of not really adhering by what the Jedi as a whole believe. And then that just shows that their whole idea of life is flawed, because you can see it, what I was saying, how not addressing something causes you to act on it. They don't address the fact that deceit exists within their own ranks, or mainly just in general, unless you're a Sith. They don't acknowledge that this exists, right? Deceit and fear, but mainly deceit for this. So they don't acknowledge that it exists, and because they don't acknowledge this, what do? In their actions, they deceive everything. Everything around them is being used as a tool of deceit. They're even deceiving themselves. They're even telling themselves that, yes, going around the galaxy slaughtering, these random worlds, and not the whole world, but like imposing their will on it, is a good thing. You can see it. You can see it come out in their actions. So, witnessing this, that it's coming out in their actions, and you gotta imagine, that's what Anakin was taught by the Jedi, the people that basically raised him. So then he's not gonna understand how to get that out of him, because he's been taught his whole life to just hang on to emotions and not let them in. So that comes all the way back around to that the people that raise you or around you when you're growing up, if they don't do something, then you're not going to be taught to do it consciously or subconsciously. So the Jedi do this to everyone, and because they did this to themselves, because they were rejecting deceit, they got deceived. And then they got deceived, and they ended up losing. They ended up getting absolutely mollywopped by the other side. You see what I'm saying? You see the correlation? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You cannot say to yourself, fear does not exist, and then feel afraid and not accept it, because then you're doing things that are just going to make your fears come true. And that's the main thing about how this applies to life, is not circulating even those negative emotions, and then all of what you're afraid of comes true, or what you feel guilty or ashamed about. If you don't circulate that, you will be put in another situation at some point to feel that once again. That's pretty much the main point, right? And most average people are very good at circulating their negative emotions, like, today, I'm not having a good day, I feel this way, and then not really acting like, yes, I'm afraid of this, and then still doing it. Just constantly talking shit about themselves. And then others are very good at the other one and slingshot to the other direction, and essentially constantly only focus on the positive. Constantly being like, something annoyed you or something bothered you, but instead of just saying it and then getting it out and then it's done bothering you, just being like, yeah, today's a great day, everything's amazing, nothing bad can ever happen. And that's a great mentality to have. But like I said, if you just completely reject those feelings, then your actions won't won't reflect the positive mind, right? And then everything's out of whack. Because if you're constantly like, yes, everything's positive, fear doesn't exist, and you're rejecting that, then you're lying. Then you're lying to yourself, causing it to happen anyway. So, the real trick is just to be like, yeah, this person cut me off in traffic today. They really annoyed me. And then go about your day and, don't really let it bother you. Because if you hold it in, even if it doesn't bother you, even if it doesn't bother you, perhaps in that moment that you realize, then over time, if enough things just bother you just a little bit, and then bother you just a little bit, but enough for you to completely shut it out, eventually it's just going to explode. And then everything around you is just going to blow up in your face. And I'm sure that whoever's watching this, that none of y'all want that. Because that's just not good for you, and it's not good for the people around you. And that's essentially what happens, and that's what happened to Anakin. So don't let that happen to you. Don't let the fear that you're feeling and not addressing destroy your life in real time without you even realizing it. To master yourself is to master life. So if you understand 100% of yourself, then you will understand life. That's pretty much it. Because the outside is just a reflection of what's going on the inside. That's it. So master the self. Everything else will be easy. I do have one more lesson that I would like to take from the movie and address with you guys. And basically the main lesson with the Jedi is that, I realize the two lessons that I said, they kind of intertwine. But basically the lesson with the Jedi is, don't be so stuck in one frame of mind either. Learn to open your mind. Learn to think about other things. If, let's just take religion just for example. If you're a Christian and you believe in it super strongly, well then, and you've never read any other holy text, I recommend reading a different holy book, like the Quran, for example. Now, I'm not Muslim, but I'm just saying knowing different points of view can not only open doors in your mind, but also strengthen your own point of view because you understand more on why you believe one thing. Where the Jedi, they would just follow this belief blindly, and then it ended up biting them in the ass. So that's the main lesson with the Jedi, is that just open up your mind, be open to new thoughts. Don't just think, oh, I'm on the left, I have to believe this. Oh, I'm on the right, I have to believe this. Or my party believes this, I have to believe this. No, you're an individual. Just believe what you want. Just believe what you want, just do you. That's it. And the Jedi the Jedi, aren't living like you do you. They're living adhering to a code that deep down a lot of them don't even really agree with. And that's just fake. That's just lying to yourself. That'll fuck you up. Just lying to yourself will fuck you up. The final lesson that I want to take from this movie, we've gone through Anakin's character arc. We've gone through the Jedi and their belief system. Two major parts of the movie. And now I kind of want to address the movie politics in terms of how how the war in the movie is running, why it's happening, and how that reflects life. So this movie happens at the end of something called the Clone Wars, and essentially, the idea of it is these other planets, they just want to be independent. They just want to be their own. They just want to be their own state. You know, it would be like if the entire galaxy was made up of the USA. I mean, it was made up of the USA, and then a few planets represented by Florida, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana. You know, these four states, which are planets in this situation, they just want to declare independence, and the Republic isn't having it because they see that as terrorists, essentially. So that's the whole idea of the war, is that these systems or planets are trying to be independent, and the Republic doesn't want that. So how that kind of, reflects the real world is pretty much everywhere known in the world is taken up by some kind of country or some kind of label, some kind of border is pretty much everywhere that we know of, every piece of land, right? Nowhere is really completely independent like that. And there's this war going on that you could arguably compare it to the American Revolution, where the British controlled everything, and then America was kind of created and took them down, and then created like their own little section. You could compare it to that, and how this basically relates to life, because it probably sounds like I'm rambling, is that not a lot of people in the war really even understood what they were fighting for. They didn't even know why they were on that battlefield. They didn't know why their planet was involved in this war. They were just subjects to the environment, right? And a lot of times, wars in the world go on around us that we don't even truly understand. That we can hear things about it, but we don't truly understand it. And no one, even the people that thought they truly understood it, thought they understood the inner workings of this war, were incorrect, because this whole war was fake. The whole war of the Republic versus the Separatists was fake, and it was created for somebody else to take over when both sides were weak and become the new power in the galaxy. So how that relates to life is essentially, even if you think that you know everything about a certain topic or something that's going around or something that's happening, you might possibly actually know absolutely nothing about it. You might know literally nothing about it, and just what is perceived. So if you believe something so strongly, don't be like the Jedi and just believe it blindly. Understand why you believe it. Understand your own beliefs, and understand if your beliefs benefit you or if they don't. That's pretty much it. Just understand your own frame of thought, and don't reject certain parts of you by not voicing it in some way. And I'm not saying that you have to go on the streets yelling at people, about how you feel. What I am saying is that don't lie to yourself and reject part of who you are. Because then, deep down, you'll always be miserable. You'll always be miserable in one way or another. Deep down, you will. You know, and that's pretty much it. You know, voice your fears so you don't create them. Understand what you believe and why you believe in it. And lesson 3, there's always more to learn about a situation. Always. Whether it's wars, or whether it's relationships, or whether it's just even day-to-day things on why drinking water is good for you. Always know there's more to learn. And that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 lessons I would say. 3 lessons I would say are voice your fears, voice your concerns, voice these things about you, but still act like I'm afraid to. Still act in your best interest. You know, go towards the fear, face everything and rise. The second one is know what you believe and why you believe in it. And you know, if you're a Christian, why are you a Christian? Why do you believe that so strongly? If you're a Muslim, same thing. It doesn't really matter. Just even if you're not religious, just know why you believe what you believe, and understand it. Be self-aware. You know, understand the self, understand the world. And thirdly, you can always learn. You can always learn more. There's always more to the situation. There always is. Don't go supporting something that you don't even understand. At least understand it. There's always more to learn, no matter what it is. And then understand, before going on trying to understand certain topics, does it affect you? Does it affect you in a way that is beneficial? Does it affect you in a way that's negative? Does it not affect you at all? Understand these things about yourself. These 3 very important life lessons I just took from a sci-fi movie. You can watch any movie and learn any lesson from it if you watch with intent. If you watch with intent to learn, you can learn. That's pretty much all I have to say about this. And I'm going to be closing out now. You know, join me on the next episode of Me Thoughts. And check out other things on my channel. Michael Ethan 435.